The power shift isn't coming. It's already happening. We are witnessing the most significant structural migration of global value in our lifetime. Digital assets are no longer just speculative instruments for retail traders. They are evolving into sovereign strategy tools. At the center of this battlefield sits one critical layer: cross-border financial dominance. This is about who controls the rails of global value transfer for the next decade. To understand where we're going, we must look at the foundation. The global financial system we use today was largely built in the 1970s, an era of analog mail and slow freight. It was designed for a world that no longer exists. Today's system is intermediary, heavy, slow, and completely opaque. It relies on a chain of trust that is increasingly brittle in a high-speed digital world. 1971 was a massive inflection point. When the world moved away from the gold standard, we moved into a system of debt and messaging. But we never upgraded the settlement layer to match. We built faster communication, telex, than the internet, but the actual movement of value remained tethered to 50-year-old clearing cycles. We are trying to run a gigabit economy on a dial-up settlement rail. Most people think SWIFT moves money. It doesn't. SWIFT moves messages. It's a secure email system for banks. The actual settlement happens later, often days later, through a complex web of correspondent banks. This gap between the message and the money is where systemic risk lives. It's where capital gets trapped, where errors occur, and where the slow in global finance actually originates. One of the biggest hidden costs of this legacy structure is the pre-funding problem. Trillions of dollars sit idle in Nostro and Vostro accounts across the globe just to facilitate transfers. This is capital trapped by the friction of an outdated settlement structure, liquidity that could be working in the economy but is instead held in reserve to manage counterparty risk. Think about the correspondent banking model. Every cross-border payment has to hop through multiple banks, each taking a fee and adding a delay. International transfers can take 3 to 5 days. In a real-time world, this isn't just an inconvenience, it's a systemic risk. Manual reconciliation increases friction, and as we know, friction is expensive. Global commerce has simply outgrown this 50-year-old architecture. We live in a world where data moves at the speed of light, but our value settlement still moves at analog speed. Digital settlement is no longer a luxury upgrade or a tech experiment. It is inevitable. The question is no longer if the system will upgrade, but how quickly those who move first will capture the power within the new system. Inevitability creates opportunity. When the system is opaque, it is slow and prone to error. Up to 10% of international payments require manual intervention. That means a human has to step in to fix a mistake in the chain. In a multi-trillion-dollar economy, that 10% represents a massive bottleneck of wasted time and capital. We need a system where the ledger is the source of truth, not a series of disconnected emails. Here's what most retail investors miss. This isn't just a tech shift, it's a geopolitical shift. Countries care about liquidity independence and trade efficiency. They want to reduce their reliance on legacy financial dominant structures that can be used as leverage. When nations gain more options for settlement and liquidity routing, the global power balance begins to adjust, quietly but significantly. If you can settle trade faster, you reduce counterparty risk. If you can reduce dependency on slow correspondent systems, you gain flexibility. Digital asset infrastructure introduces optionality, and in the world of global finance, optionality equals power. This structural necessity is what brings us to the architecture of the future. The cracks in the foundation are too wide to ignore. We aren't just looking at a better version of the old system. We are looking at a complete reset. The shift from messaging to settlement is the catalyst. Now, let's dive into the engineering of the system that makes this possible. We've established that the old system is failing. Now let's talk about the architecture of the solution. XRP's design has always centered around one specific mission: cross-border efficiency. This wasn't built for a store of value narrative or meme economics. It was engineered for rapid settlement, low transaction cost, and high throughput. It is a tool designed for the plumbing of global finance. XRP functions as a neutral bridge asset. In the legacy world, if you want to move value from Mexican pesos to Thai baht, You often have to go through the US dollar as a middleman, paying fees at every step. In the new world, XRP acts as the universal adapter. Instead of hopping through 5 intermediaries, banks use XRP to bridge the gap. This eliminates the need for pre-funded accounts and allows for atomic settlement, where the trade and the settlement happen simultaneously. The XRP ledger uses a consensus protocol, not mining. This is a critical distinction. It means the system is not only faster and cheaper, but also significantly more energy efficient and scalable for institutional use. It can process 1,500 transactions per second, every second, 24/7. When governments and financial institutions modernize their payment rails, they don't prioritize hype. They prioritize this level of reliability and throughput. They need a system that can handle trillions in volume without breaking. Because once integrated, switching costs are massive. These infrastructure decisions are sticky. Once the rails are laid, they anchor the flow of capital for decades. Think about the power of the entity that provides the rails. They don't just facilitate the flow, they influence the direction and the rules of that flow. That is the leverage we discussed in Part 1. Every power shift follows a pattern. Phase 1 is the silent build. This is where we are now. Liquidity corridors are expanding quietly. Enterprise integrations are deepening behind closed doors. Institutional testing doesn't happen on Twitter, it happens in secure labs. We are seeing major banks and central banks testing central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, often using the private version of the XRP ledger to do so. Most investors chase volatility. They look for 20% moves or viral headlines. But volatility is noise. Structural adoption is the signal. Infrastructure compounds over time. Speculation spikes and fades, but once a network layer embeds into global commerce, it becomes invisible and indispensable, like the internet or mobile networks. Digital asset infrastructure is moving in that direction, systematically and strategically. This is not about the next month, it's about the next decade. By removing the need for pre-funded Nostro accounts, XRP unlocks trapped capital. This is true capital efficiency. Banks can use that money for lending, investing, or other services rather than letting it sit idle. This is the liquidity layer of the next decade, and those who anchor it will influence the flow of global value. We are moving from a world of idle liquidity to a world of real-time, on-demand liquidity. The final piece of the puzzle is regulatory clarity. Institutions cannot move trillions of dollars into a system that exists in a legal gray area. As clear frameworks emerge across the globe, from the UK to Singapore to the US, the floodgates for institutional capital are opening. This is the transition from Phase 1 to Phase 2, from silent build to visible adoption. This is where the power shift becomes undeniable. Interoperability is the key to the future. The world won't have just one ledger, it will have a network of ledgers. XRP is designed to be the connective tissue between them all. Whether it's connecting different CBDCs, private bank ledgers, or public blockchains, the goal is a seamless web of value. This is the Internet of Value in action. It's the infrastructure that makes global trade friction-free. The new architecture is being built beneath our feet. But there is one more layer that will supercharge everything we've just discussed. In our final part, we'll explore the intelligence era, how AI and tokenization will finalize this global reset. Join me for the conclusion. We've explored the legacy failures and the new architecture. Now let's add the final, most transformative layer to this shift, artificial intelligence. AI is no longer a separate industry. It is becoming the brain of the financial system. It is already optimizing liquidity, detecting fraud in milliseconds, and predicting congestion across global financial grids before it even happens. When AI integrates with blockchain settlement layers, we get intelligent liquidity. In the old world, liquidity was passive, it just sat there. In the new world, AI can analyze routing options and optimize cost structures dynamically in real time. It transforms settlement from a back-office clearing function into a strategic, active asset. This isn't just digital finance, it's an automated, self-optimizing value web. The convergence of AI and blockchain modernizes decision-making inside finance. It removes the human error and the slow we discussed in part 1. This change is not incremental, it is systemic. It means the system itself becomes smarter, faster, and more efficient every single day it runs. By 2030, manual reconciliation will be a relic of the past, replaced by autonomous, AI-driven settlement agents. Then there is the second pillar of this era, tokenization. This isn't just a buzzword, it is the ultimate capital efficiency. We are talking about the tokenization of real-world assets, or RWA. Real estate, corporate bonds, commodities, trade finance. When these assets tokenize, they become transferable in seconds rather than weeks. Trillions of dollars in value are being moved onto the ledger, requiring the very rails we discussed in part 2. Fractional ownership increases liquidity and expands markets to everyone, everywhere. You no longer need to buy an entire office building, you can own a fraction of it, represented by a token that can be traded 24/7. But remember, you can't digitize trillions in value without reliable settlement rails. Whoever anchors that settlement layer influences the flow of the entire global economy. That is the leverage of the next decade. By 2030, the world will look fundamentally different. More trade will be settled digitally, real-world assets will be tokenized by default, and AI-managed liquidity will be the invisible standard. The legacy system won't simply disappear, it will integrate, upgrade, and move onto these new rails. But the upgrades favor the infrastructure providers, the ones who move first to anchor the rails and influence the flow. Influence determines influence. Every power shift is obvious only in hindsight. Right now, we are in the positioning phase. You can ignore the quiet build, or you can study it. By the time it trends on the news, the rails are locked in, and the opportunity to position yourself is over. This isn't about daily candles or short-term volatility. It's about the structural migration of global value, and this migration rewards those with patience and deep understanding. If you want to go deeper into how these forces will reshape our world, I've broken it all down in my book, Mastering XRP, AI, and the Digital Economy Before 2030. It's available now on Amazon, and the link is in the description. Subscribe to this channel for more strategic breakdowns. Position yourself before the system fully upgrades, because once the rails are locked in, the power shift is complete.